Good afternoon, everybody. This is Lizzie Kosei with the Department of Education. It is just me today. Kay was attending the collaborative in Harvey this morning, so was unable to join us for today's webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. So today we're going to do a review of Blueprint. We're going to talk about the different components of it and the steps that we'll need to take to have a finalized draft by February. So just like last week, we're going to do some questions from last week's webinar, anything that was posed to us in the follow-up survey. So every week, if you have any pressing questions, just remember we have that survey at the end of the session, and that is a good time to ask any lingering questions you might have. We're going to review what we asked you to do last week. We're going to talk about that current state and how that aligns to your goals. And like I said, we're going to talk about all the Blueprint components again and next steps. Let's get started. So I just want to remind you that when you signed up to be in the Get Ready cohort, we asked that you sign a set of assurances. And that includes, one, actively participating in every weekly webinar, and also to complete the deliverables related to developing a plan for each pillar in the Ready Start model. So just so everybody knows, we are taking note of who's attending the weekly webinar and capturing that so that we make sure you have someone from your network has attended. Something that might help us is if you are in the Zoom app on your computer, if you scroll over your own name, when I see it, I see an option to rename myself. And so it might be helpful because some of you use initials, or some of you, we're not sure what network you might be associated with. So you can always rename yourself so that your network is right next to your name. So I changed my name to be Lizzie Kosei LDOE. So especially if you're a proxy and maybe not the coordinator for your lead agency, and maybe you were sent in your place, it's helpful if you can add what network you're associated with. So thanks in advance for that. Also, we asked you guys last week to submit a survey related to your current state. We asked you a set of 4 questions, and we still haven't received a few answers from some people. And so just keep in mind that this is a required part of this Get Ready cohort. And so we will be getting in touch with you to make sure you get that done. Also, like I've said before, we want this to be an engaging webinar. So if you can, please join with a computer or through the Zoom app so that you can see all of our slides. And please be sure, if you can, to participate and type in the chat box or unmute yourself if you'd like to talk. All right. So our questions from last week's webinar. So there was a question about what our goal setting could look like. Someone asked, seems like the main goal is to increase seats for birth to 3 years. Could we have a different goal? My network would like to focus on technology. So yes, we want each community network to set 3 to 5 goals. And the main ones we want you to address relate to access and quality, and we would really encourage one of those to focus on birth to 3-year-old seats. So when you said technology, we weren't 100% sure on what you meant by that. So if technology is a priority in your network, we think that it would probably be best if that were one of the strategies that supports another goal. So for example, if you were talking about technology in the classroom, one of your goals related to improving quality could be set, and a strategy could be, you want to provide high quality materials that support learning, including technology. Or if you meant technology in terms of like your systems or coordinated enrollment, your goal could be to improve systems, and your strategy could be to find stronger technology supports for those systems. So again, just want to reemphasize that you do have some flexibility because we'd like you to make 3 to 5 goals total. And only 2 of those we're really saying one needs to be about quality and one needs to be about access. So there's some wiggle room in terms of what those other 1 to 3 goals might be. And we can help you establish those. So I see a question about the vision and mission activities that we were given to you guys. Those are located in the Google Drive folder under Blueprint Guidance in the workbook. And if you remember correctly from last week, Emergent Method representatives, Sam and Bev, talked to us about some different activities you could do with vision and mission. Those are optional by all means. You can use them. You can run those activities in a meeting yourself when you present them to program partners. By no means do you have to have an additional training with those activities or have an outside consultant run those activities. That is all optional. If that's important to you, if you think that you would want to facilitate those, an outside facilitator to run those activities, that could be something that you use your money for. Again, that's flexibility up to you. But like I said before, you don't have to have an outside facilitator to do these activities. It could just be you running those activities if you think they would be helpful. So is there a list of available consultants that can help guide or facilitate the process? Great question. We're in the process. So I previously alluded to one consultant that the LDOE has used, which is Emergent Method, and we've really enjoyed working with them. And we're actually talking to them to see if they can get us connections around the state to provide a list of vendors that can help you with this process. If this is something that is really important to you and you're like, I want to hit the ground running and I'm ready to do this now and I want my consultants ASAP, then reach out to me and Kay and maybe we can get you a list of some potential consultants that are close to your area and we can get it to you faster. Okay. So someone expressed that they're just still really confused about the entire Get Ready process. And we understand this is a very new process. We've never done this before. And if you are unsure as to what you guys need to be doing right now or you want some clarity, please give me and Kay either a call or an email. We'd love to talk you through it and to figure out how we can better clarify your concerns. So another person was wondering how long they have to spend their $25,000 allocation. As of right now, the funding has been extended until February 29th of 2020. But we're really hopeful that we're working on a no-cost extension for that money to go even longer. And but unfortunately, that won't be confirmed for a little bit longer. So for now, I would advise you to plan your budget and see how far your spending can go by the end of February. Okay, who all should be involved in working on the blueprint? Should it be program partners, public school staff, community stakeholders? Then should this be presented to all partners in the network? This is a great question and totally relevant to what we're talking about today with our blueprint. There should be representation from each program partner type, so schools, Head Start, childcare, whatever you have in your area. And if there's a coalition member, somebody in your area who might not be from one of those specific program partners, but who's exhibited a strong interest in the work, they could potentially help you with this process. For example, I know in Rapides Parish, there was a community member who sat on multiple other boards and was just really invested and excited about the work, and they included them in their partnership. So it depends on your situation and your community, but you definitely want to engage people so that they feel like they've bought in, and so that you have a variety of opinions present. We do not want it to just be one person writing the blueprint on their own. And then in the end, yes, so to answer the question, should this be presented to all partners in the network? Eventually, we want this to be a public-facing document, yes, and we would love you to share it with your partners in the network. So maybe at your next network meeting, maybe sometime in the spring once it's complete. Okay, and I see Pam asked in the group chat, she doesn't think they signed any assurances. So, we kind of consider when you first applied, there was a set of assurances that you had to agree to on that Google form when you applied. And also those assurances are in EGMS when you accept your funding. So by the way, those of you who aren't aware of this, your funding should be available in EGMS. So you could be setting up your budgets for your Get Ready money. So let me know if you have any further questions about that. All right, so that's done with last week's questions. Now we're going to move on to last week's assignment. So just to recap, we asked you to scrutinize your data kits, specifically looking at quality and access. And we asked you to answer the questions in the analysis of current state survey. So we wanted you to look at the quality in your area and your access for 3 different age ranges, and to write 1 or 2 sentences to explain your current state for each category. A couple people haven't done this quite yet, so I just want to let you know this is what the survey looks like. It's not particularly long. We just want you to, first of all, rate how is your community network performing in terms of quality. So there's either a red light, yellow light, or green light based on how you feel. Is this a high area of concern, or are we doing really well, or are we somewhere in between? And then based on your rating, you are going to write 1 or 2 sentences to explain that quality. And the same was going to be done for 3 different age ranges. So if you haven't done it yet, please make that a priority to complete soon. So back here. So I kind of want to hear from you. As you were completing this assignment, what steps did you take? Did you work with anybody else to look at the numbers? Did any of the data surprise you? Did you find the process helpful? And is there any data you wanted or needed but didn't have available in your data kit? So let's just start with the first question. What steps did you take? And my other probably main question that I want to ask is, did you find this process helpful? So if you'd like to, we'd love for you to chat in the chat box and talk a little bit about how this process was for you and if it was helpful. Hey, great, Nicole, thank you for sharing. They were surprised by the low number of infants actually being served. Yeah, it can really be a staggering number sometimes. And then Mary McMahon shared that it was helpful, but no surprises. Okay, great. Okay, Pam. Oh, I'm glad you found that it was nicely and easily broken down. That's really good to know. Patricia also said that it was helpful to have all the data at her fingertips. No surprises, but very helpful. And then I was able to use the data from the previous year and the updated information from this first quarter of the year. That's fantastic. So Stacy says the data confirmed that we have a low number of infants we serve. Bridget said the number of students versus 3 not accessing high quality childcare was interesting. Nicole says the compiled data will be helpful to sit with program partners to work on planning out improvements. Okay, so I am really pleased to hear that it's helpful to have these data kits all in one place. I agree, and I cannot take credit for all of the data kits. I am not the Excel wizard that put them together. There's someone else in the department who does that, but I've been kind of the liaison putting them together. So they work immensely hard and they're super, super great. And they've been very open to any feedback. So if you have any other like piece of data that you think about that you say, okay, this would be really helpful, I wish this were included here, please let me know. So I'm really, really happy to hear that it's a helpful kit for you guys. Okay, great. Lola says she worked alone to review the data. She made notes as she analyzed each set of data, and she has a meeting with district leaders on Friday to further analyze and discuss. So that's fantastic, and I'm really glad a lot of you are planning on sharing this data with other people. The numbers really, really do tell a story, and it's so important that we understand them and that we have a working knowledge of them. Okay, Nicole says we were going to add licensing capacity from each side in our discussion planning. That's a really great idea. So they're gonna take some of their own local data. I do not think we have that sort of information at our fingertips at the department. I'm not sure, but I think that's a great idea so that you can really think about how many are we serving and what would our capacity be. That's great. All right, so I wanted to share a couple of example responses. Okay, one last thing. Thank you, Dr. Odinga. I see that you also will share with partners at your monthly meeting. That's fantastic. Okay, so here are a couple of example responses that we got when we were going through your surveys. And these were the kinds of really strong answers that we were excited to see. So for example, one person said that the scores have increased over the past 3 years in all class domains. However, there is significant room for improvement in the areas of instructional support and engaged support for learning. So that was the kind of analysis we wanted to see. I thought that that was really meaningful and that that could be something that stakeholders would really understand. So it's fantastic. It recognizes the growth that's been made, but it also recognizes that there's always room for improvement, and specifically here's our room for improvement. It's in these domains. And same with this second response. While there are classrooms with complete buy-in as to what is best for all students, we still have classrooms with teachers who continue to struggle with the importance of adult to student interactions. Again, recognizes that there's been growth, recognizes the strengths, and also realizes that there's some shortcomings. So a few more responses. These were just a range for the different age groups. In response to the very first question, how well is your network serving children age birth to 2? Someone responded, at this time, there are no type 3 learning centers in our parish. While there are some home-based daycare centers in one type 2, there is a need for more care for young children. So I think that states the problem really, really well, and would definitely go into your blueprint current analysis of state. That was very well explained. Same with these questions about how's your network serving 3-year-olds and how's your network serving 4-year-olds. We want to make sure that in your blueprint you clearly define what is strong and what needs work. And I think that when you think critically about this and are able to convey it in this way, it's really, really meaningful. So all of these answers were the type of answers that we were kind of looking for, and the type of answers that could possibly be almost copy and pasted directly into a certain section of your blueprint. So with this activity, the reason that we did this survey was to break it down in a very clear and easy way for you to begin working on a section of your blueprint called the analysis of the current state. So that analysis of your current state is where you would give a paragraph or two that describes your community's early childhood education structure, including your community network strengths and shortcomings. And like I said, you want it to be very data driven. You want to share numbers that tell a story and that really give your, really bring your network to life and help people better understand what's happening there. And you want to include critical background information that helps external stakeholders better understand your community network's needs. So I'm going to flip back to some of the responses. So when you're writing this paragraph or two that describe your network, basically the responses that you gave for this survey can almost directly be input into these paragraphs. We want you to address quality, and we want you to address access for all of those ages. So I realized that when you submit these surveys, I don't believe you got a copy of your answers yourself. They went directly to me. And so what I'm going to do this afternoon, after the webinar is done, is email each of you what your responses were so that you have that moving forward when you're working on your blueprint. Because everybody did a really nice, insightful job of answering those questions. So, like I've said before, the Get Ready cohort is really looking to help you have a final draft of a blueprint ready by February. And when you look at guidance for a blueprint, you might get overwhelmed by the amount of work that has to be done. So what we're doing and what we're trying to attempt is to break it up into smaller bits so that you don't have to do it all at once and then it's done in a more digestible way. So with that in mind, we did that current state survey so that you could, the next step you could take would be to write 1 to 2 paragraphs to do your analysis of the current state of your community network. So this current state should talk about these, or excuse me, should answer these questions. How many sites do you have by type? How many children are you serving? And has that increased or decreased in the past 3 years? In terms of class scores, how are you performing? What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? So this is, these couple of paragraphs will be at the very top of your blueprint. If you look at the blueprint template, this is the first thing people will most likely see. And the reason why it's so important is to really communicate to external stakeholders where you are and what you need, basically, how you need to improve and what are your areas for improvement. So we're hopeful that you could possibly get drafts to me and Kay by November 22nd, which is the Friday before the week of Thanksgiving. The sooner the better. We would love to look at every single Get Ready cohort's analysis of their current state and be able to provide you feedback and figure out how we can strengthen them. So in order to help you with this process, we created a little data mapping tool. This is very much optional. It's going to be located in the Google Drive folder, but it's also going to be emailed to you this afternoon. So this is something just to help you with that, with this whole process, figuring out your current state. It asks for certain numbers, it asks certain probing questions, you can make adjustments to meet your needs. This might be something that's helpful to do with program partners if you want them to take a hard look at the number and have a better understanding of it. But like I said, this is an optional mapping tool if you think that it could help you with this process and if you want to use it with other people. So I just want to stress that as you're writing the analysis of your current state, that is a setup for you before you write your goals. So if you think big picture about whatever goals you think your network needs to address, it shouldn't be a surprise because whoever's reading your blueprint will have just read about your weaknesses and the analysis of current state. So remember that when you're writing these 2 paragraphs about the analysis of current state is that it's setting you up before the goals are set in order for you to really address where you can improve. And don't forget, we want you to make sure you know that when you write those 3 to 5 goals, we're using that acronym SMART. We want them to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So, thinking about the goals that you want to set, I've talked about it earlier today, and I really wanted to make it clear that we would like at least 1 goal to address access and 1 goal to address quality, but that means that there's some room for other goals. So without writing a SMART goal, you do not have to write one that's time-bound or measurable by any means, but when you're thinking big picture about the topics you want to address in your blueprint, can you think of any other big picture topics that you would like to address? If you can, please share in the chat box. Maybe it is community engagement, maybe it is coordinated enrollment, but think about, in addition to access and quality, what are some big picture topics that you will be interested in addressing? Please type it in if you can. All right, Nicole shared to have all program partners understand the need to increase and improve seats. It's not about fighting to serve students. I love that. This is all about the kids, right? But it's to really have an understanding among your program partners. That's great. Stacy says curriculum professional development for childcare. It's a great point. To better inform and involve the community. Very good. A lot of our current Ready Starts are using their blueprint to improve in community engagement and to better inform parents of their choices. Patricia said we need to work towards being part of the K-12 arena. We are on a different level with the LEA. Yeah, that makes sense. Dominica said community engagement. Mary said expand access for 3-year-olds. Oh, Crystal said comprehensive services for all children, including social emotional services. And also PD aligned to our lower class areas. Instructional support, yes. Instructional support is one that a lot of people are going to have to focus on. It is a difficult one for sure. All of these are really great and I love them. I love hearing your ideas. Molly says foster stronger collaboration efforts between program partners. This is great. And give just another moment in case anybody else wants to share. What are some big picture goal topics you want to address in your blueprint? Okay, gonna move on. So, I wanted to remind you of the major components of the blueprint, and the next slide is going to talk about a little bit more how we're going to break down all of those components. So like I said, and like we've talked about almost the entire session today, is the very first is that analysis of your network's current state, which is 1 to 2 paragraphs that gives background and critical information for someone to understand what's going on with early childhood in your community. You'll also have a vision, and a mission statement. And then 3 to 5 goals, and per each goal, there will be strategies, resources, and performance metrics. So, in the months ahead, I just want you to be thinking about what all this might mean for you and the work that has to be put into it. So, the first draft, the first thing we're starting with at the LDOE is an analysis of current state, which we want submitted before Thanksgiving. And we are going to hopefully give you some strong feedback on that so that you can make adjustments and room for improvement. So I want you to think about, the reason we're talking, I have this slide up is because I just want you to think about who you need to have involved. So we had that question earlier in the presentation, and I want you to think about it now. A lot of you are probably writing this analysis of current state on your own, which is okay. And we want you, though, to maybe then engage some program partners on that current state analysis, particularly looking at your network strengths and weaknesses and seeing if they think of something that might need to be addressed that maybe you didn't think of yourself. So think about, okay, if I write this analysis of current state by Thanksgiving, and LDOE provides feedback, maybe after Thanksgiving, I need to think about who I can bring to the table to look at this with me and to see if this is the right direction. Another thing that you will need input on, it's really something that's particularly difficult to do by yourself, but also it's not truly reflective of your community to do by yourself, would be to draft your vision and mission statements. That's definitely gonna require input and work from program partners and stakeholders. I know yesterday it was really exciting to hear, I believe it was Nicole Angel who shared yesterday that she was planning on a meeting where they were going to be looking at blueprint, and I think specifically with vision and mission statements coming up. She was bringing program partners together. Forgive me if I got the wrong person, but I think that's who it was. And so just thinking about what's the best way to go about addressing that vision and mission, who I want in the room that I think will be particularly helpful and engaging. Okay, I love it. Nicole says she's calling it our Blueprint Brainstorming Coffee and Cake Collaboration. That is fantastic, and that sounds great. And coffee and cake make this process so much better. I love that idea. So if any of you are thinking, oh, that's a great idea, that's something that I'm interested in, remember between now and February, we have a good bit of time, but with holidays and with all of the many things, the many hats that you're wearing, you might have to plan well in advance when those program partners are going to get together with you to do this type of work. So after you're done with your analysis of current state, Kay and I were thinking that we'll start drafting goals complete with their strategies and resources and performance metrics. We'll start drafting those goals in December, I think. We'll probably start by you just drafting one goal and submitting that to us and us giving you feedback so you know, oh, okay, I'm on the right track, or oh, I need to be thinking about this a little differently. And again, do you want input from program partners on that? Do you want them to help you draft the goals? Or do you want them to look at it after you feel a little more comfortable and you created a few on your own? Just be thinking about those partners and how you're going to bring them in. So once you get this final draft, which I'm guessing will probably be around January, is there anybody really important it needs to go to? Does it need to go to some sort of governing board or your Head Start partners? Does it need to see, does your superintendent need to see it? Do you want to do it? Do you want to review it at a quarterly network meeting? Just kind of be thinking ahead and working backwards from February about all of the different steps that need to happen between now and then. And lastly, when you submit Super App, it's asking for your blueprint link. So it literally is going to say, what's the link to your blueprint on a website? So you will have to have it published on your early childhood page, your website. Oh, so I know that was a lot, and I've done a lot of talking, so I'm going to pause here, and I want to see if anybody has any questions, or if anybody has any other ideas similar to Nicole's about this blueprint brainstorming and who they're going to bring to the table to help them with this. I'm going to pause for just a moment. Any questions? Okay, I don't see any, but if you think of anything, please feel free to type in the chat box. So just a reminder, we have a Get Ready Google Drive folder, and in it, these are the different components that can help you with the blueprint process. So we've got our initial blueprint guidance that details all of the different components. We've got a workbook with possible activities, including those vision and mission activities that you could use if you do have some sort of brainstorming session. And then we also have a suggested template. So I'm going to actually click on this one, just so you know. Hopefully all of you have gotten a chance to look at this. So this is the guidebook that we've started creating for Ready Start Networks. But obviously this is applicable, what's inside is also applicable to our Get Ready cohort as well. So this guidebook kind of gives a little bit of background on what are the Ready Start Networks, what do Ready Start Networks do, and it breaks down each of the 4 pillars. Now, this timeline and key milestones, this is all related to Ready Start Network work. This is helpful for you if you're thinking critically about whether this is the type of work that you want to be doing in the year ahead in 2020, 2021. But right now, as a Get Ready cohort, this is not necessarily applicable to you. But coming down here, this is where we get into the weeds of the blueprint. Why do you need it? How will this plan be developed? Who should be involved? Who should review it? And then it breaks down each of the components. We've got the analysis of the current state, what they call guiding statements, which are your vision and your mission statement. And you might remember last week we heard from Emergent Method, and they reviewed these large national organizations' vision statements, which are just really helpful to see just in general as an example for you moving forward. So if you keep going down, the mission statement, this is what a mission statement should look like. This is what you need to keep in mind. Then goal development and all of the different areas underneath each goal, including strategies, resources, performance metrics, etc. So this gets in the weeds of things. If you are ready to kind of jump in and start working on various things that maybe we have not yet assigned you, you're welcome to kind of get a jump start. If you want to start working on vision and mission, or if you want to start drafting your goals, this is where I would point you to look for guidance. But like I said, we will kind of have some benchmarks for you as we go along. So if you are not ready to do that dive in yet, I understand, but some people are itching to get started, and I want to point you in this direction if this is what you would like to do. So we've also got a workbook. I'm going to just point this out to you really quickly. This is not particularly long. When we created this guidance, we thought that maybe some people would spend a day kind of dedicated to this. We realize now this needs to be altered because it's really hard for anybody to have a full day to work on this type of work and to get partners involved, which is why we have a Get Ready cohort and why we've broken it up into different components. So just keep that in mind, that this is not something that is going to be done in a day, and we are definitely breaking it down. But this is the example they gave on how to write a vision statement. It starts from headlines from the future exercise. And then there's also a mission statement development exercise as well. So like I said, if you are interested in itching to get started on this type of work, please feel free to use any of these activities, and you can run them yourselves if you'd like. You do not need an outside facilitator to run these unless you would like one, and that's a priority for you. And lastly, this is the suggested template. As you can see, I mean, in this form, it's not particularly long. It will get full. Where it says introduction, that is where you put your analysis of the current state. And then vision and mission, and then each goal is broken down by strategies, resources, and performance metrics. So we hope those resources are useful for you as you move forward. Let me know if you have any questions about them. And also, they're definitely living documents still. So if you have any suggestions, or you think something's confusing or is not explained well, by all means, let us know. Okay. So like I said before, if you have any lingering questions, please type them in the chat box. I think y'all have been pretty good about that so far. So here's what's happening next. Looks like we're gonna wrap up a little early today with our webinar. What's happening next is I will email you your responses to the analysis of current state survey that you took last week. Please keep in mind, if you have not yet done this, to do it as soon as possible. It's really helpful for you in the work that you're doing and will be helpful moving forward. So I know that you didn't have necessarily those responses saved on your computer, so I'm gonna email those to you this afternoon. And we would like you to use those responses to the survey, use your data kits, blueprint guidance, input from other people, and to begin actually drafting the analysis of current state, 1 or 2 paragraphs, to submit to the department by Friday, November 22nd. Again, we just kind of put a stake in the ground so that we could get those maybe before Thanksgiving. It's about a paragraph or 2. I think that if you just spend 1 to 2 hours critically thinking about all your data and what's most important to you, that you could get that done in that amount of time. Something that Kay wanted me to remind you about is it might be helpful for you to specifically set aside time each week to do the work for Get Ready. If you have to actually put it on your calendar, it might be helpful. I know I talked to someone this week who told me that she set aside time each week for what she called study hours, and that was when she looked over blueprint guidance and she was familiarizing herself with what Ready Start would mean and what Get Ready work entails. So I know how we definitely recognize how many hats you guys wear and how busy you are. So if maybe you see a window of time in your calendar where you can set aside 30 minutes or an hour a week to get this work done, it might be helpful. We also ask that next you read the coalition guidance, because next week's webinar, we're going to be diving into coalition, which is a really exciting topic, and one that's pretty fun to talk about and fun to think about who you can involve in your community to get on board with your work. So similar to our blueprint guidance, this is what our coalition guidance looks like. So if you can, please review it before next week so it's not completely new information for you. So I do want to say that we have a very set schedule for our webinars, and we're looking at each of those 4 pillars of Ready Start Networks. That's why we're diving into coalition next. But blueprint is something that's going to keep coming up repeatedly. So blueprint's going to come up pretty much every week because we actually want you to do the work and go through the process for the entire blueprint to prepare you to submit it in February for Super App. So know that next week we will talk about coalition for the majority of the session, but that we will probably still be addressing components of the blueprint. And that's never going to be far out of our sight. It's talking about blueprint. Okay. Lastly, especially because we're ending a few minutes early, I would love it if you would please take our recap survey here. I'm going to actually copy and paste the link. I know some people, because I think of the data breach, some people can't get to tiny URLs. They're blocked from their network. But the link for this survey is in the chat box and to everyone. So this week's survey, oh, it looks like I have got to, there we go, resume collecting responses. So this week's survey is asking, first of all, on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident do you feel that you will create a blueprint by early February? And then it also gives you the opportunity to ask any lingering questions you have about Blueprint or to give any feedback or suggestions for how we can better help you with this process. So please, please, please take our survey today in the few minutes we have remaining. And these have been very, very valuable for us. We've gotten good questions and good feedback. And we really just want to make this process as seamless and as easy for you as possible. So think about, is there any resource we could provide for you, or is there any question we really haven't answered? Are you still really confused? Please feel free to answer those questions today in our feedback survey. I see 2 people have already responded. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. I see someone said they just clicked on it. It says it's not taking any more responses. It should be accepting them again. That was my bad. That was a slight technical error on my part. So hopefully try and click it again or refresh it and it should work. If you continue to have problems, you can email me. Okay, so any other questions today about your blueprint work? All right, I don't see any, but you know how to reach me. I've really been enjoying this process so far, and I look forward to our next webinar next week. Let me know if you have any more questions. Take care, everybody.